The Ryder Cup coming to Long Island this week, and there may be no bigger stage than the iconic Bethpage Black. And this week, the eyes of the golf world, they turn to a course known for its tough layout, its New York crowd, and its ability to test even the best players in the world. So to help us break it all down, from how the course is setting up to the strategy on that shortened first hole, to which team might have the edge here, and even how the weather could impact the competition, we're joined by New York Post Sports columnist. My guy, Mark Cannizzaro, joins me now from Bethpage Black. Mark, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Dex. Good talking to you. I haven't seen you in too long.
I know. It's been a while. Always good to talk some golf with you. We get to talk about the Ryder Cup. And I guess the question, I think, for a lot of people when it comes to the course here at Bethpage Black is, how is the course setting up for this year's Ryder Cup?
You know, as the golf fans around here know, they've had three major championships here. They had the 2002 U.S. Open, the '09 U.S. Open, and in '19 the PGA Championship, which I think you mentioned you were at. So
Yep.
those course setups were much more difficult than the course is set up now. The U.S. Open is known for having its high, thick, rough, ankle deep. You miss a fairway, you're just hacking it out. The PGA was set up similarly. Maybe the rough wasn't quite as high, but it was thick. Ryder Cup fans don't want to watch guys chopping balls out of the rough sideways just to get back into play. Ryder Cup fans want birdies. And Keegan Bradley, who's the U.S. captain, and the home captain, gets to set the course up the way he wants it. In theory, to as an advantage to his team. So Keegan's got the rough way down. I don't think it's going to be a factor at all if you miss a fairway, unless you blow it way too far right or left. So it's going to be a bomber's paradise out here, and it's set up for birdies. And that's what Keegan Bradley wants, because, there's going to be a massive, vociferous crowd here. Obviously, in full throat, rooting for the Americans to take the Ryder Cup home. And the only thing that excites them even more is birdies, and birdies win holes, and holes make for points. So that's what it's set up for. I think it's going to be really exciting. Listen, these two teams are so evenly matched, and quite frankly, almost all of them are long hitters. So that, if years back, it used to be the Americans were always the longer hitting team, and the Europeans much more accurate, maybe a little shorter. That's not necessarily the case. The Euros are probably a little more accurate off the tee in terms of their, strength, straight, but they're all big hitters now. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the bunkers you saw in 2019, Dexter, off the fairway bunkers, they're not even going to come into play for these guys. They're just blowing them right over that stuff. So
Yeah.
it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
That shows you the evolution of the golfers, the game. Also, obviously the evolution of this course here this week. And look, more birdies, always good and fun for us as golf fans and the players too. Now, when you talk about the players here, there's been a lot of talk about the first hole here at Bethpage Black. How are players going to approach this shortened first hole this week? Because it's going to be a different challenge. Some players are going to embrace that, some players won't. How are they going to approach that shortened first hole, Mark?
Well, it's going to be strategic, Dexter. Now, Dexter, what's happened with the first hole, for anybody of our listeners who have been to Bethpage Black or played it, what they did for this Ryder Cup was they moved the tee box. The first hole is a dogleg right. There's a bunch of trees on the right that kind of protect, you're trying to cut the corner. So what they've done is they've actually taken the tee box and moved it probably 30 yards to the left, maybe more, 30 or 40 yards to the left, more toward where the 18th green is. And they did that mostly for a fan viewing situation, because they want a huge grandstand behind one, and they want one behind 18 as well, right? But most of the matches are not going to get to 18. I mean, it's rare. I don't know what the percentage is, but you're not going to see a ton of matches that are getting all the way to the 18th hole. So what they've done is they've kind of, in moving the first tee over to the left a little bit, now they've made it so they can have a gigantic grandstand that envelopes 18 green and 1 tee. I just actually came back from there. They had the opening ceremonies over there a little while ago, which is kind of cool to see. So now what you have, it's made the hole a little bit easier, because the dog leg is not quite as pronounced. It's a little bit shorter because the tee's a little further up. So it's going to be tantalizing for some guys, and we've been watching guys in the practice rounds, Bryson, Rory, taking it over those trees and going for the green, trying to reach the green in one, or at worst, and ending up in one of those greenside bunkers, which doesn't bother those guys at all. But here's where the strategy comes into play. I think in the four ball, which is each player from the team hitting his own ball and his own shot, you may see one guy play it safe and just put a ball in the middle of the fairway, and then that second guy, if the first guy is safe, can try to bomb it, try to get close. The interesting dynamic will come in the foursomes play, which is the alternate shot. I think that's just going to be a feel situation. If Bryson DeChambeau is going to be teeing off one, for example, I'm going to think he's going to go for it, and then hopefully put his partner in a good spot to just chip on from close to the green or splash out of a bunker or whatever. So it's going to be a very fun strategic back and forth there for both of these teams. And I recommend anybody that has tickets to just post up on that grandstand and watch the boys tee off on ones, both in the Friday morning session and in the afternoon when they go off with the four ball. So it's a number one's going to be a very fun, pivotal, early, strategic play, if you will.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. If you want to see that at the first hole, you better get there early for those seats, because that's going to be filled up pretty quickly. You know that there, Mark. But when you look at this course, which of these teams, U.S. or the Europeans, the Americans or the Europeans, who has the advantage playing at a course like this?
I don't really, in theory, as I mentioned before, the home captain gets to decide how the course is set up. I suppose maybe in theory you could say it favors the U.S. a little bit because of the lower rough. The U.S. has been strangled in past Ryder Cups, in 2018 in France, where the fairways were super narrow, it was a lot of rough. Same thing in Rome 2 years ago. That was a little bit of a detriment to the U.S. But as I said before, all these guys are so long now, so it's not a pronounced advantage, but I'd say, it's got to be a little bit of an advantage to the Americans. And of course, the biggest advantage to the Americans is going to be the home crowd. The home crowd is going to be, Bethpage is electric for major championships when people are just rooting for their particular player that they want.
Right.
It's going to be off the rails this week, with the American, USA chants and all that. And I'm sure there'll be a little bit of heckling for Rory, who's kind of made himself a bit of a target and a polarizing figure on the European side. So, I think more than anything physical on the golf course, I think the advantage is really more in the crowd.
Yeah, no, the crowd will be definitely pumped up for this one here at Bethpage Black. And I guess my last thing I have here, Mark, and this kind of goes to a previous job I worked at as a time when I was a national weather reporter, but I got to ask, how is weather going to play a part in this year's Ryder Cup when you look at the forecast this weekend and how it can play for all the players and also the course? How does weather play a factor here at this year's tournament?
You had to get the weather in, didn't you?
I had to get it in.
It's in your blood, man,
Yeah, it was for a little bit. It was for a little bit.
Yeah. I think what it's going to do, and you don't like to see it because you want a course to be as hard and fast and fiery.
Right.
That makes for better golf, more exciting golf. What it's going to do, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty much of a washout tomorrow. It's going to soften the golf course up. It's going to make what already is a long golf course longer, because you're not going to get a lot of roll. To what we were just talking about going for the green on one, for example, if it's a wet course, the players might be less inclined to take that chance, to take it over those trees and leave it in some soggy place where maybe it doesn't get over the trees, clear all the trees or whatever. So it might take a little bit away from the thrill of holes like number one, when you want to be going for the green. So it just lengthens the course basically, because you're going to have some plugged lies probably, and you're not going to get forward roll on off of tee shots and whatnot.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see how weather plays a factor, how the players do here at Bethpage Black. We got the Ryder Cup. Mark Cannizzaro, our great sports columnist, he's going to be all over it. It's already been a long week leading up here to the Ryder Cup. Mark, enjoy yourself the Ryder Cup, and I know you want to see if the Americans can come out on top here, and we will talk soon throughout the competition.
Sounds good, Dex. Good talking to you.